Cheers!
Cheers! Cheers!
I just cheersed him.
I thought you were just handing him to me.
Well, that too.
No, okay. This the ink one?
This is the ink one.
Yes.
Brought to you by Sly Clyde. Their ink.
Sly Clyde Inkjet. Inkjet. It's a blackberry mint hard cider.
We haven't had it yet, but we really like Sly Clyde, so...
I've had it before. They've had it on tap up at the tavern.
Oh.
It's been on the rotation tap.
Ah.
So it's not...
I might have missed that
You might have missed that one, but it's a very good one.
So, I like it because it's got an octopi on it.
But Sly Clyde, they are based out of... They're down in Hampton.
Yep.
No,
right by Fort Monroe.
Right by Fort Monroe. So.
Which we're going to talk about soon.
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
Okay.
Soon.
I was going to say, in all the editing I just did, I don't remember reading anything about Fort Monroe for tonight.
Next time.
It's
in next script.
Okay. And also brought to you by our friends at Rich Brow Brewing, who have just released their 4th Street Horribles. And when I say brought to you by, I mean that we went and bought them and we're just drinking them and we really enjoy them. They did not pay us for this impromptu spot, so please don't take this as a paid advertisement, Facebook.
It is not. But you know we run the show on drinking, so, you know. This is what we're drinking tonight.
Cheers. So, anyways. Yes, so yeah. What have we been up to? Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
Yes, we went and we saw Beetlejuice this past Thursday.
Which is fabulous. And then we helped out with Richmond Tourism. They actually had a group of people in who they took to the show on Thursday. And then we did a Beetlejuice-themed dinner on Friday with them and told them spooky tales.
It was a lot of fun.
It was delicious.
They were good people.
Oh my god!
We got to tell stories in the garden at Linden Row.
We did, and we got to, and we found news stories. For
we got news stories
and for Jefferson.
Jefferson, yep. People that have worked there are now working for another entity, and they were happy to go ahead and share their stories with us. So yay!
We like networking.
Yes.
Especially when it gives us stories.
We will be more than happy to take more stories. We always like more stories.
Yes.
But so yeah, what else have we done?
Went to Water Country.
Yeah, we did. Then we did that
we took a day and we did that.
Yeah.
We did that Friday.
Started going to the gym.
We
did do that since our last show, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long. Feels like forever because every workout feels like an eternity, but hey.
Hey, we're making good on one of those promises we made each other a while ago.
Yep, there's that.
And we're being good to ourselves, like we should be. Taking time for ourselves.
As we sit here and drink.
Hey. Hey.
Anyway, so
it's been a day. Hi, Patrick.
Hello, good evening.
Patrick, I found more haunted tales for you.
Beth has been very much looking... Oh, yes. But you've been very much looking forward to the show tonight because it has forced me to cheer up and put on a happy face.
It's been a day.
It's been a day. But anyways, yes.
But we're happy now.
We are happy now.
We're
drinking and we're happy to be sharing spooky stuff with you. Which brings us to tonight's show. Haunted National Parks.
And yes, we have covered a few parks before. We're going into more depth with some of these parks that we have visited before. But yeah, I mean, it's summertime, folks. People are at the park. So what better thing to do?
Yes.
Your script for tonight, sir.
My script for tonight.
Do you want to start or do you want me to?
Sure. I'll do this. All right. So it has been over 150 years since the first American national park was established at Yellowstone in 1872.
Oh my God.
It's been a hot minute.
Yay, yep. National parks.
In 1916, the National Park Service was established to oversee the country's growing collection of sites. Before that, it was like in the Department of the military and stuff like that. It was National Park System was managed by other entities before the National Park Service.
And then they realized they really needed their own entity.
Yeah, so that happened. It was like 40 years, but anyways.
AKA, do not pet the fluffy cows. That's their new shirt, by the way.
It's pretty cool.
It's awesome. I want one.
So, today, the National Park Service manages 429 sites encompassing all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and some even overseas.
Yep.
A number that grows year after year and will likely be greater if you catch this episode as a recording later on. So if you watch this in a couple of weeks and something else gets added to the system, don't come roasting us. We know, we get it. It's okay.
And there's a lot of more parks that I just didn't cover.
Yeah. Oh.
And you will.
Yes.
There's a part 2.
So the system, it does of course include stunning parklands, but monuments and battlefields and more, making the National Park Service a representation of what makes America beautiful and historically rich. It's no surprise that the system draws in hundreds of millions of visitors every year. What may surprise some is that the system also fosters a considerable community of spirits, representing the many chapters of American history. Tonight, we will touch on some of the mysterious lore and spooky happenings that linger in the shadows of some of the National Park Service's many sites, stories for you to keep in mind the next time that you find yourself trekking in America's beautiful wilderness, enjoying its remarkable history, or maybe just sharing spooky stories around the campfire.
Yeah, when I told my sister I was diving into these, she goes, "Are there anywhere I'm going hiking in August?" I said,
Yes.
"Probably."
Yes.
In that park, absolutely. In that section of park where she's hiking, I didn't dive into that section because I had plenty of other places.
Yes.
So the park we're talking about is the Grand National Park, the Grand Canyon National Park, excuse me. Starting in the desert southwest, we look to the Grand Canyon with its steep-sided canyon carved out by the Colorado River in Arizona. There we go. The Grand Canyon is 277 miles long, up to 18 miles wide, and is over a mile deep at its deepest point. The vast natural formation is largely protected for its natural beauty, but heritage within as well, covering a territory that is managed by the National Park Service and native tribes in the area. Nearly 2 billion years of Earth's geological history have been exposed as the Colorado River and its tributaries have cut their channels through layer after layer of rock while the Colorado Plateau was uplifted. While some aspects about the history of the canyon are debated by geologists, several recent studies support the idea that the Colorado River established its course through the area about 5 to 6 million years ago. It'd been there a while.
A hot minute.
A hot minute. And it has carved an amazing path through the landscape. I've been to part of it. I haven't been to all of it, and I need to go back. You've never been. We need to get you there. For thousands of years, the area has been continuously inhabited by Native Americans who built settlements within the canyon and its many caves. The Pueblo people considered the Grand Canyon a holy site and made pilgrimages to it. The first Europeans known to have viewed the Grand Canyon was Garcia Lopez de Cardenas from Spain, who arrived in 1540. U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt visited the Grand Canyon in 1903. An avid outdoorsman and staunch conservationist, conservatist, Roosevelt established the Grand Canyon Game Preserve on November 28th of 1906. Livestock grazing was reduced, and predators such as mountain lions, eagles, and wolves were eradicated. Roosevelt, along with the other members of his conservation group, the Boone and Crockett Club, helped form the National Parks Association, which in turn lobbied for the Antiquities Act of 1906, which gave Roosevelt the power to create national monuments. Once the act was passed, Roosevelt immediately added adjacent national forest lands and redesignated a preserve of U.S. National Monument on January 11th of 1908. Opponents, such as the land and mining claim owners, blocked up efforts to reclassify the monument as a U.S. national park for 11 years. The Grand Canyon National Park was finally established as the 17th U.S. National Park by an act of Congress signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson on February 26th of 1919. Today, the park continues to offer awe-inspiring views that have been enjoyed for centuries, along with great hiking, fascinating historic rides, and a few ghosts. Also, there's a really cool train ride up there as well, which is highly recommended by travel agencies. So, just so you know.
We like trains.
We do too. It's one of the most beautiful train rides, I think, in the U.S., along with the one that we went on in Alaska.
The White Pass Yukon Trail.
Yeah,
White Trail Yukon Pass?
Yes, White Pass Yukon Trail.
Okay.
Anyway, Today, the Grand Canyon Village sits on the south rim of the canyon and stands the El Tovar Hotel. Opening in 1905, the El Tovar has offered guests luxurious accommodations and stunning views for well over a century. And legend has it that a confused guest of the hotel approached the front desk and asked, "Where's the holiday party?" The equally confused desk clerk went, "What party?" The guest went on to describe how a hotel employee in a fancy turn-of-the-century attire had invited him and his family to a big holiday ball. The desk clerk could only apologize for any confusion, as there was not any holiday ball scheduled at the hotel, nor were any employees dressed to represent the life at the hotel over 100 years ago. So who was the fancy-dressed man? Well, based on the guest description, hotel employees think it was Fred Harvey, the founder of the Harvey Company, the first owner of the hotel. This was no isolated ghost sighting, as guests and employees have frequently reported seeing Mr. Harvey strolling through the hallways and gazing at the canyon from El Tavor's front steps. Moving on to the west rim of the canyon, we find ourselves within the boundaries of the Halupai Indian Reservation. In 1917, a group of Halupai woodcutters discovered the entrance to some caves, which happened to be the largest dry caverns in the U.S. The Grand Canyon caverns are a wonder within a wonder, and they seem to have collected some spirits at some point along their history, but no one's certain about who haunts the depths of these subterranean locales. Some think the spirits of the ancient native people who were buried here may be restless from some of the more modern activities that take place here. Others claim to see a long-dead mine worker by the cavern's elevator. Some guests have reported hearing whispers and having rocks thrown at them from out of nowhere. And unfortunately, as of this show, you cannot experience the caverns for yourself. They have been closed since October of 2022, after several tourists were temporarily trapped in the cavern after an elevator malfunctioned. Only time will tell if this will ever reopen to the public.
Yep. Awkward.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't want to be ever trapped in a cavern.
Over 200 feet down.
Yeah, no. That's not on my bucket list.
Nope, no, it is not.
So next we're going to move over to the North Rim, where you can chance encounter with the Weeping Woman of the Transect Trail. Or you can hike into the belly of the canyon to Phantom Ranch. This 101-year-old ranch built on a plateau just above the river consists of a handful of cabins and bunkhouses surrounding a larger lodge. Stones from Bright Angel Creek were used as pillars for the buildings, helping the man-made structures blend into the natural landscape. Kristen's hiked there.
It looks like an interesting place.
It's a very pretty place. When John Wesley Powell voyaged through the Grand Canyon by boat in 1869, his expedition rested in this very spot. At the base of the stone huts built by the ancient native people, Powell was a one-armed Civil War hero whose Grand Canyon expeditions helped fill the last unknown swaths of the American West. He did not meet his end there, but his spirits has been spotted haunting Phantom Ranch and nearby Phantom Creek. Well, while this seems like an excellent explanation for the Phantom name, others are likely to come from tricks of light that play off the canyon walls, making certain features of the area fade away and reappear. Still, one can hardly fault Powell for coming back to haunt this area. It's one of the most popular hiking locations in the Grand Canyon today. Finally, beware the local deities. You don't mess with the local god. You just don't. So, a Hopi god named Masa evidently lingers in the canyon, watching over those who come and go. Masa is very terrifying to the unknowing, and he's also known as the Skeleton Man, as the Lord of the Dead. Yet, despite these monikers, his purpose is to teach the Hopi people to live a simple and self-sufficient life, and to ensure smooth passage to the afterlife if they show proper respect for nature. It may be these stipulations that get modern visitors into trouble, with some blaming Masa for dizzy spells and for hurling stones at them. Perhaps these people need to take a careful look at their own relationship with nature and the presence that they bring to the Grand Canyon today. Just another reason to take the National Park Service Leave No Trace Behind campaign very seriously.
Yep.
Just saying. Don't piss off the local god.
Yep. No, you don't. It's one thing, just to be respectful to your surroundings, but don't piss off the gods.
No. Don't piss off the nature. She will. I'm just saying. She's been around for a while. She's a mama.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Yeah, did you all hear they added another category hurricane? They're up to 6 now.
Good times.
Don't take her off.
No,
Please.
let's not. Let's not.
I'm gonna have chocolate.
Oh, you brought the chocolate.
I
Huh?
brought-
Good deal.
From Seattle.
Ooh.
It's our orange chocolate.
It's the last of our chocolate from Seattle.
It is.
Anyways.
Moving on.
We digress.
Next park.
We have more parks to share with you. Next, we are moving to the OG. We're going to Yellowstone. Largely in the northwest corner of Wyoming and extending a little bit into Montana and Idaho, the park spans over 3,400 square miles, comprising lakes, canyons, rivers, and mountain ranges. Yellowstone Lake is one of the largest high-elevation lakes in North America and is centered over the Yellowstone caldera. That caldera.
The one that'll kill us all when it erupts.
Yeah,
just so you know.
The largest supervolcano on the continent. The caldera is considered a dormant volcano, though it has erupted with tremendous force, which is an understatement, several times in the last 2 million years. Well over half of the world's geysers and hydrothermal features are in Yellowstone, fueled by this ongoing volcanism. Lava flows and rocks from the volcanic eruptions cover most of the land area of Yellowstone. The park is the centerpiece of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, the largest remaining nearly intact ecosystem in the Earth's northern temperate zone. That said, Yellowstone is no stranger to a human presence, as Native Americans have lived in the region for at least 11,000 years. More modern exploration did not begin until the late 1860s, and once it became a national park in 1872, management fell under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Department of the Interior. However, the U.S. Army was eventually commissioned to oversee the management of Yellowstone for 30 years, between 1886 and 1916, but come 1917, the administration of the park was transferred to the newly founded National Park Service, which had been created the previous year. Hundreds of structures have been built and are protected for their architectural and historical significance, and researchers have examined more than 1,000 archaeological sites. In 1978, Yellowstone was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Woo!
With all the natural and man-made energy that is concentrated in this wild landscape, it's a little surprise that some spirits seem to linger here today. Yellowstone's most notorious ghost story begins in 1915 in New York, when the teenage daughter of a wealthy shipping company owner rejected her arranged marriage. She had fallen in love with a much older man who worked in their house as a servant and wanted to marry him instead. Despite her father's attempts to talk her out of the union, the heiress married the servant. Heartbroken, her father offered the couple a significant dowry as a wedding gift, on the condition that they would leave New York forever. To his surprise, they agreed. The pair traveled to Yellowstone for their honeymoon, which is when things began to go south. The couple checked into room 127 at the Old Faithful Inn, and it didn't take long for the new bride to see the error in her judgment. Her husband spent their dowry playing poker and eating and drinking in excess. In 1 month into their honeymoon trip, they ran out of money. The bride telephoned her father to ask for more money, but he denied her request. One night, hotel staff allegedly heard the couple arguing loudly, and the husband eventually slammed out of the room, never to be seen again. After keeping their distance for a couple of days, the hotel staff began to worry about the new bride and went into her room to check on her. An unlucky hotel maid found the bride in the bathroom, bloody and missing her head. Staff searched high and low, but her head wasn't located for days until it was discovered in the crow's nest where the band played. Since then, guests have reported seeing a form in what appears to be a white dress descending from the crow's nest with her head tucked under her arm. But there's a catch. Yellowstone's interpretive specialist, Leslie Quinn, insists that the story is completely made up. Quinn says a former bell captain of the Old Faithful Inn, George Borman, was being hounded one day by a reporter who wanted to know about the inn's ghosts. After repeatedly telling him, to his disbelief, that the structure did not have any ghosts, he finally fessed up with the story of the Headless Bride. When he was finished, the reporter asked, "Now, what year did that happen?" To which George responded, "Oh, say any year you like. I just made the story up." And it's been known as the gospel truth ever since.
So this may be a case where people believe it so much that it has manifested itself.
Yeah. So, still, despite the false pretenses, people claim to see this bride floating around the inn, crying and upset, and the story became extremely well known, which, again, might be one of those situations where the bride has actually wound up kind of manifesting because so many people have talked about it. And there's other instances that you can find.
The Murrow's Plantation, we talked about that.
Yes, the Murrow's Plantation, yes. Not the first type of story like this that we've shared, but and certainly
there's a few others.
There are certainly others.
And there was a university study on this back in the 70s.
Yeah, when they were doing.
Was it Peter? Was the name of the ghost they manifested?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
They wound up deliberately trying to, share the story of Peter.
I think it was Peter.
But yeah. To the point where eventually some weird stuff started to happen where there wasn't weird stuff before.
Yeah.
So
it's the power of the mind. We still don't understand it all.
Yes. So anyways, the bride has certainly lodged herself very firmly in the folklore of the Old Faithful Inn to this day. Now, looking to another storied accommodation at Yellowstone, there is the Lake Yellowstone Hotel, where an employee may never have clocked out after his last shift. Some of the modern and living staff have reported encountering a porter who is still working at the Lake Yellowstone Hotel, despite having departed the mortal coil many years ago. Dressed in early 1900s clothing, he's been rumored to appear and offer to help people who are having trouble getting their luggage to the second floor. Apparently, he also provides tips on trails to explore in Yellowstone.
This is one I want to meet.
Yeah, so if you're interested in going to a national park with a side of spooky lodging, there may be no better place to go than the granddaddy of them all, Yellowstone National Park.
Which is on our bucket list.
Yes, we have a long bucket list.
Yeah. All right, any questions, comments that we need to... I saw Patrick commented on the Cat 6.
Yes. And our friends at Fleetwood Paranormal need to keep those deities happy.
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. All right.
But no other questions?
Okay, cool. You have another piece in here too, by the way.
Excellent.
I just didn't want to pile too many over there on there for you.
Oh, no, not chocolate. And yes, Alex, orange chocolate is quite delicious.
Yeah, this is a dark chocolate orange, and it's so good.
No regrets.
No regrets buying that. And carefully, actually, this is the one that we managed to fly back across the country and did not break. Surprisingly.
Alex asking national park recommendations. One that we're not covering tonight, but I highly recommend, Dry Tortugas.
Which did we cover that in Key West? Or no?
I'd have to go back and look.
Okay. But yeah, it's you have to take a boat or airplane from, seaplane, from Key West out to it. That's the only way to get there.
It makes it one of the least visited national parks in the country.
Because there's only one boat company that actually has permission to take people out there. But you can do like a half day or a whole day seaplane trip. I think they take up to 6 people in the seaplane. Definitely worth going out and checking out. This is where actually Dr. Samuel Mudd was held after he was indicted for his help in with John Wilkes Booth after the Lincoln assassination. So very fascinating place to go out and see. The boat ride's amazing. You can snorkel out there. You can actually camp overnight there too, which is really cool. It doesn't look like it. Maybe it's in another one that's upcoming. But.
We did mention it in Haunted Key West, but very briefly. I don't think we got into haunting tales there.
Okay.
But
yeah, definitely worth going to. We've gone once, so we'd love to go again.
Yeah, there is another one here, but I would also recommend Acadia.
Acadia. Yep,
Acadia up in Maine is stunning. if you want to get out of the 50 states, there is down in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Oh, yes.
The El Morro.
El Morro, which is wonderful. It's in the old fort.
Yep.
Absolutely beautiful. There's another park that's down in the Caribbean on one of the American islands.
Yep. We have Dry Tortugas in Florida, Part 2, when we get to that.
I was going to say,
we have not actually broadcast that yet, but we have it in our library.
I was going to say, I thought I did a story on it, but cool.
Yep.
It's coming. Hi, buddy.
So many recommendations.
So many. I mean, my brother-in-law loved white sands out in New Mexico, but they used to play golf out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's so many out there to go to and go, just go and check out.
I mean, as you said, you went to the Grand Canyon. Highly recommend it.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to it.
My sister loves it. She loves to go hiking there.
Rocky Mountain.
Rocky Mountain is wonderful.
Which we will be touching on that tonight.
Yep. Because
spoiler alert.
Entrance into that is by Estes, which is wonderful to go through too as well. God, I've been to a couple of them, and I've been to Mount Rushmore, which I really enjoyed too. I was younger at that point, but Chris and I just need to hop in the car and go.
There's so many amazing national parks out there, and some of them are really small too.
Yeah.
Right here in Richmond, the Maggie Walker House is run by the National Park Service.
Yep.
But it's a house.
Yeah.
It's like what, maybe 1 or 2 acres of property.
Yeah.
But it's one of the 429
properties. Yeah. Our neighbors actually did their honeymoon at Glacier National Park.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Alex, not sure if Cape Hatteras National Seashore count. Technically, no. National Seashore is not a national park. It's protected territory, but it is not officially a national park.
It's an adjacent.
And then it's adjacent. We actually touch on that in, I think that's our last story for tonight, how there was a park that was elevated from a national seashore to national park status.
Okay. So let's get back to it. We're going to jump over to Yosemite, which, of course, everybody is known. If you follow Ansel Adams, he photographed Yosemite quite a bit. But this is an iconic national park. It's in California. It covers almost 1,200 square miles and is internationally recognized for its granite cliffs, waterfalls, giant sequoia groves, and other remarkable natural features. The story of this unique landscape starts about 10 million years ago when the Sierra Nevada was uplifted and tilted to first form the valley slopes. Pardon. Streams and rivers cut deep canyons in the landscape, and then about 1 million years ago, glaciers formed at the higher elevations. The glaciers cut and sculpted the U-shaped Yosemite Valley that we know today. As with our other national park areas, native tribes inhabited the area for over 4,000 years before the first Europeans arrived. In this case, the first documented European was James Savage, who entered Yosemite Valley in 1851. Yosemite was critical to the development of the concept of national parks. Galen Clark and others lobbied to protect Yosemite Valley from development, ultimately leading to President Abraham Lincoln signing of Yosemite's grant of 1864 that declared Yosemite as a federally preserved land. In 1890, John Muir led a successful movement to motivate Congress to establish Yosemite Valley and the surrounding areas as the national park we know today. Nestled above the steep walls of Yosemite National Park are many tales, and a few of them of the spooky variety. Grouse Lake, at the end of a 4-mile moderate hike on the west side of Yosemite National Park, and it's the spot of one of Galen Clark's most favorite in the whole of Yosemite. On a crisp fall day of 1857, a pitched howl like that of an injured animal was sounded as he got close to hiking out to the lake. Clark searched, but he couldn't find the source of the sound. On the way back from his hike, Clark passed through a native hunting camp. Clark asked the camp's inhabitants if they had seen a wounded animal, but they replied that he had heard no animal. What he heard was a spirit. The men went on to tell Clark that long ago a Native American boy fell into the lake and drowned, and his restless spirit cries out to passers-by. But should someone come too close, he will grab them by the ankles and drag them down to the bottom of the lake to keep him company. These days, hikers report hearing many mysterious cries coming from Grouse Lake. Are the cries that of an injured animal, or are they the lonely wails of a long-dead boy? If you hike the trail yourself, you might have the opportunity to find out, but I would keep your feet away from the water, just in case. Well, away from the spooky waters of Grouse Lake stands a much more accessible location, the Anawani Hotel. Well known for its convenient location to Yosemite and its cozy guest rooms, you may still get a chill once you realize that it was once the visual inspirations for the Overlook Hotel in the 1980 classic horror, The Shining. Yes, I know everybody says it's the Stanley Hotel. That was the movie.
Well, so they're both the movie.
Yep.
One Stanley Hotel exterior, Ahwahnee interior.
So, just so you know.
Yep. The infamous red elevators, that's the Ahwahnee Hotel.
Yeah. All right, so most notably, as Chris said, the elevators. Another thing that the Ahwahnee and the Stanley have in common is they're both haunted in the real world. Legend has it that the visitors to the Ahwahnee may encounter the ghost of Donald Tressiter and Mary Curry Tressiter. Perhaps best known as the fourth president of Stanford University, Donald met Mary on a visit to Yosemite as a young man. He later became the head of Yosemite's Park and Curry Company, as Mary was the daughter of the park's concessionaires and the owners of Camp Curry. Later on in life, both resided in a converted living quarter on the 6th floor of the Ahwahnee. That's where Mary died in 1970, and Donald died in 1948 in New York, but according to legend, both of their spirits still frequent the hotel. Both guests and staff have reported seeing a female ghost wandering the halls, and allegedly she also tucks guests into bed. It seems Mary's insistent on making sure that the guests are having a comfortable stay. As for Donald, well, he was known to get up in the middle of the night, walk down the hotel steps to get a glass of milk in the kitchen. This routine continues into the modern day, as does Donald's familiar footfalls that can still be heard padding down the stairs in the middle of the night. Another ghost that may still be at the Ahwahnee is that of President John F. Kennedy himself. During a visit to the park in the 1960s, the President requested a rocking chair to help with some back pain that he had been dealing with. Even though the rocking chair left when the president left, people still claim to hear a distinct sound of a rocker to this day. And I will say, if he had a lot of pain, that's emotion being put down in that location.
Yes.
Just saying. Residual. Beautiful as Yosemite is, it has a number of grim tales associated with it as well. The waterfalls all over Yosemite have claimed the lives of hikers over the years, but one definitely stands out. Miwok Indians believe an evil spirit named Pohono would lure hikers near the edge of the cliffs before pushing them to their deaths. In turn, the fallen hikers themselves are thought to haunt the area. Legend says that 2 Native women were picking berries at the top of Bridal Veil Fall when a mist appeared. When one of the women moved too close to it, the wind suddenly shrieked through and threw her down the rocky, churning waters. The chief blamed Pohono, and he forbid his people from wandering anywhere near the water. Pohono, then still craving victims, is said to lure people in by creating hypnotic rainbows in the mist. If you have a chance to visit yourself, please take care not to become one of his next victims. The Pohono doesn't have a monopoly on spooky native lore at Yosemite. There's also the night crawlers.
These things are creepy.
Yeah, despite being featured in ancient lore, these creatures have made their presence known in recent memory. They are described as walking on a tall pair of legs covered in white cloth with just a head mounted on it. No arms, no torso, just a head and a pair of legs. Yeah, no.
No.
They're eerily similar to the Native American totem, and the Ahwahnee chiefs say that the night crawlers are a peaceful race of beings that came from another planet to rebuild the union between man and nature. That's just one interpretation. There were sightings of them back in the 1990s, but those paled in comparison to an event 20 years ago when a grainy CCTV footage emerged, capturing the image of a nightcrawler striding across a man's front yard in Fresno. In 2011, they appeared again, this time caught on camera in Yosemite National Park. Today, they are a popular lore, with the debate still raging in the paranormal and cryptid communities as to what these creatures could be or where they even came from. The nightcrawler is not the only cryptid that is reported to wander Yosemite. Another beast is described as having a long, gray, mangy hair and the face of an ape and human-like hands and feet. It seems to be of sickly quality, where it's coughing and foaming at the mouth. It goes by a few names: devil ape, devil fang, or the Wyatt's Valley wolf ape, because of how often it's seen around the Wyatt's Valley Cemetery. Accounts of this creature can be traced all the way back to the first people that arrived here after crossing the Bering Sea land bridge. But one of the most well-known encounters with this beast involves the legendary photographer Ansel Adams. Famous for taking photographs of Yosemite, he made frequent visits to this area, but on one occasion he encountered more than Yosemite's stunning landscape. It's said that a pack of the wolf ape creatures came upon his camp, trapping the photographer in his tent until they moved along. Another report saw an incident of the wolf ape enter a single-room schoolhouse, terrorizing the students and a teacher. The children piled up their desks together and climbed to safety of the rafters, while the teacher managed to lock himself into a closet. The creature broke through their desks to get to their lunches and left after it had its fill.
He just was looking for some nibblies.
Yeah, they keep telling you don't feed the animals.
Yeah.
I have a feeling if I ever encounter a wolf ape, I'm going to let it have my food.
That would be wise.
I'm just saying, it's a wolf ape.
Yes.
Let the Wookiee win.
Appropriate.
Thank you. The most recent sighting of a wolf ape was in the mid-1990s at Bass Lake, where it was seen getting a drink from the crisp waters. For many, they hope the creature will not be seen again anytime soon. One final creature from Yosemite. This may be considered a close cousin of the wolf ape, but it's much, much more famous. It's Bigfoot. Bigfoot.
We have to give Bigfoot a shout out. I mean, if we're going to talk about cryptids in Yosemite.
Hello, Bigfoot.
Hello, Bigfoot.
Many encounters with this creature are marked by reports of its great height, being covered in head to toe with fur, blood-curdling scream, and its ability to seemingly disappear in the blink of an eye. One Bigfoot encounter at Yosemite stands out among the rest. A California Conservation Corps worker was camping out near the Tulamon Meadows of Yosemite one night when he heard heavy footsteps heading straight for his tent. He went out to investigate and was confronted by what he could only describe as the furry Goliath. He responded with a scream, so did the creature, and they both retreated. Maybe they're more scared of you than they are of them. Not sure we want to take that chance. Leave Bigfoot alone.
Yep. Do not mess with Bigfoot. And yes, Vincent is very well acquainted with Bigfoot.
I'm pretty sure they communicate.
Yes. Thump, 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 thump. Thump, 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 thump.
We gotta have our zoomies. They're not happy with us. We have a door shut.
Because of the leak.
Yeah, we have a leak in the house right now.
Didn't we mention that when we started?
No, we didn't. We said it was a bad day.
Bad day. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's two rooms shut off right now. Two of their favorite rooms are shut off right now because of a leak. So, anyways.
Plumber can't come till Thursday.
Yeah.
They don't get access to the room. It's going to be fun next week.
It's going to be a long week.
Send beer.
Carrying on.
Or chocolate.
Some chocolate?
No, sir. You can come up here and show everybody how pretty you are.
Like, I'm having a stressful week too. Can I have chocolate?
No. But you can come up here and show everybody how pretty you are.
So a friend of Patrick's has a whole bunch of Bigfoot-related things in her home.
Cool.
She challenges everyone who visits to see if they can find them all. I like that. If you're gonna go Bigfoot hunting, why have to go to the woods every time when you can go in your own home?
One of the little girls who's friends with me at my coffee shop had her birthday party, and she is fascinated with feet. So I got her a Bigfoot blanket because she likes spooky stuff too. Halloween is her favorite holiday.
Kids on the
Yes,
right path.
I am encouraging this.
The kid's on the right path.
I will happily be an honorary auntie who teaches them one about the spooky things.
All right. We are really rambling. We are going to be running late tonight because we got a lot more to cover.
Mm-hmm.
Our next stop, we are going to take things up a notch in elevation as we head to Rocky Mountain National Park. The park is situated between the Colorado towns of Estes Park to the east and Grand Lake to the west. The eastern and western slopes of the Continental Divide run directly through the center of the park, with the headwaters of the Colorado River located in the northwest of the park. This is another one of the older parks, being established in January of 1915 with Woodrow Wilson's signature on the Rocky Mountain National Park Act. At nearly 358 square miles of mountainous splendor, Rocky Mountain National Park is famous for its sweeping views and fresh mountain air. It's also worth noting that the aforementioned Stanley Hotel, which we mentioned just a few minutes ago, in conjunction with the Ahwahnee, stands in Estes Park on the edge of Rocky Mountain National Park. If you want tales about the Stanley, we're not going to cover them tonight because we've already covered them before.
Haunted Hotel.
Haunted Hotels. All you have to do is go back and find our episode from August 3rd of 2020, almost 4 years ago. But it is on the internets where everything lives forever. So you can go find that. So that said, the stories of spooky stuff in Rocky Mountain National Park go well past The Shining. We'll start with a look at the heritage of the Ute tribe, one of the first Native American tribes to inhabit the land that is now Rocky Mountain National Park. Long ago, a group of Utes set up camp on the shores of Grand Lake along the western edge of what is now the national park. Without warning, they were ambushed by their Arapaho enemies. The men of the tribe fought them off while the tribe's women and children hastily boarded a canoe and attempted to escape. They made it halfway across when a sudden and unexpected wind capsized their boat. Everyone aboard drowned. For many years after these tragic events, the Ute people avoided Grand Lake completely. They believed that it was a cursed place. The legend still carries on today, as on quiet, hazy mornings, it is said that you can see the spirits of the Ute women and children rising from the mist on the lake. Some say that it looks like they are beckoning for you to join them on the waters, a course of action that we would very much recommend avoiding. That isn't the only chilling mist tale in Rocky Mountain National Park. In 1883, a man known as Miner Bill arrived in Estes Park. He was known around town to have some strange tendencies and spent about a year in an asylum. When he was released, he set to prospecting in the Horseshoe Park area just outside of Estes. He filed 2 mining claims and began constructing trails for access to these mines. Often he would come out into town for supplies and had a habit of talking to himself and of the divine. He had a fear of something he liked to call the blue mist. According to Bill, on cloudy nights near his cabin, a being would manifest and a blue mist would appear in the trees. It would always leave 3-toed claw marks in the snow and on the trees around the cabin. Animals were often found dead with nothing left but bones, and Bill believed that there was a connection. One day, Bill went missing. No one knew where he had gone until he was eventually found dead. Nothing was left but bones, along with 3-toed animal tracks surrounding him. One more tale from this highest of the national parks. In 1911, Gordon and Ethel Mace built a classic log cabin for themselves and several smaller tourist cabins to accompany it. In 1917, they built a larger lodging facility which became known as the Baldpate Inn, named from a fictional inn in a mystery novel. Regulars were given keys to their own buildings, just like in the novel, and this tradition was practiced until World War I, when the cost of metal rose so steeply they could no longer afford to give away keys. So, guests started bringing keys with them to leave at the inn, starting what would become the famous key room. Even if you've never heard of this place, if you look up a picture of the key room, you're going to recognize it. So, even as Gordon and Ethel passed on, it is said that their spirits continued to stay at their old inn. Ethel has been spotted in her rocker reading the Bible, while Gordon has been sighted roaming the hallways and enforcing the no smoking rule by smashing guests' cigarettes or stealing the pack altogether. If you go looking for it today, the Baldpate Inn is now the appropriately named Seven Keys Lodge.
I wonder what he does with vapes.
We're not going to find out.
No, I don't vape, so. But I'm just curious.
You can do some research. Somebody might have mentioned it.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Seven Keys Lodge with their famous key room.
All right, so we're going to head back to California to, what?
Blue mist sounds ominous. I wonder if the being drinks blue moon.
Oh, boy.
Alex says they would drink a blue mist, though.
Yeah.
That does sound like a tasty drink.
It does. It sounds like it has blue Caraca in it.
It has to have blue Caraca and it's blue.
Yep. All right. We'd have to figure out what else is in it. As we said, we're heading back to California to stop at Joshua Tree National Park, east of Los Angeles. It's named after the Joshua trees native to the Mojave Desert. Originally declared a national monument in 1936, Joshua Tree was redesignated as a national park in 1994 when the U.S. Congress passed the California Desert Protection Act. Encompassing over 1,200 square miles, the park includes parts of two deserts, the higher Mojave Desert and the lower Colorado Desert. There are some mountains that cross the southwest edge of the park, and of course, a few spirits lingering here. In the high desert, just on the outside edge of Joshua Tree National Park, a motel hangs back from Highway 62. The weather-beaten sign lets you know that you have arrived at the Joshua Tree Inn. A hacienda-style building, the red tile roof is discreet, and it would be easy to miss altogether amongst the other low-lying buildings in the area. The fact that it doesn't seem to bother the owner, Margot Polacci, who purchased the establishment in 2002. She explains the Joshua Tree Inn is not for everyone. It's a small-town cultural treasure with a storied past. The history of the inn does back this up, and it has long been a refuge for musicians, writers, and artists. In addition to safeguarding the property's original design and bohemian vibe, Margot says she hopes to preserve the legacy of the American musical pioneer Graham Parsons, who overdosed on a lethal combination of drugs and alcohol in 1973 while he was staying at the inn. The majestic solitude of the Joshua Tree enchanted Parsons, and he withdrew to the Mojave Deserts for days at a time. The story of a true talented musician, later considered to be the father of country rock, perishing in a place he loves, took the texture of a poetic tragedy. Over several decades, Parsons' untimely death cemented Joshua Tree Inn as the permanent pilgrim site for Graham fans. Some of them who traveled thousands of miles to experience Parsons' spirit rumored to roam the grounds. The inn is also a favorite haunt of ghost hunters and others who chase the evidence of the supernatural. Room 8, where Parsons took his last breath, is the most requested of the inn's 11 rooms. The wall behind the sleigh bed is covered with concert posters, album covers, and photographs of Graham. On the desk stands a pile of CDs donated by guests over the years, accompanied by an old boombox. Amongst these grand tributes to Graham are other more subtle items that fans have left behind. Guitar picks, wedged into the frame of the hand-painted portrait of Parsons. An early black and white publicity shot decorated with buttons. Notes and torn Polaroids, and a worn straw cowboy hat hanging from a nail above the oval mirror, which is the only original piece from the room number 8, circa in 1973. Excuse me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. In the courtyard, a few steps from room 8, a large guitar sculpted by a local artist rests on a concrete slab allegedly salvaged from Cap Rock in the park, where Parsons' manager Phil Kaufman attempted to cremate Parsons' remains. The memorial morphed into a shrine where Graham fans place tokens of their appreciation. Blogs and websites chronicling paranormal activity abound with stories about Parsons' ghost, from his radio spontaneously blasting country music in the middle of the night to the unprovoked rattling of the mirror in room 8 that was hanging when he died. Several housekeepers have witnessed inexplicable occurrences on the grounds of the inn, such as locked doors opening and open doors closing and locking, seeming of their own power. One time, the back door of room 8 was locked with a deadbolt after airing out the room for the next guests. While walking back toward the office, the housekeeper heard a loud slam, bang, slam, bang, slam, bang, slam, bang. Running back to the room, they found that the back door was flung wide open. Graham did not want that door closed. Head housekeeper Destiny Alvarado shared a similar experience while cleaning room 8. She recalled, "I opened the back and front doors and began stripping down the bed when both doors slammed shut. I was stuck in there for about 2 minutes before both doors unlocked at the same time, and I was able to leave." Then there are the disembodied voices that flutter in the breeze. A one-time manager, Dee Dee, was doing a walkthrough of the property, but as she opened the door to room 6, she heard a woman's voice. Dee Dee responded with an instinctive, "I'm sorry," thinking she had disturbed a guest, but then she realized that she was the only one there. She went back to the room and opened the bathroom and closet doors and checked the back patio. Nobody. While perhaps unsettling to some people, these experiences are part of the inn's charm. There's nothing sinister about the spirit or spirits on the grounds, as Dee Dee thinks that there might be even more than just Graham lingering about. Nevertheless, housekeepers are required to have cell phones in the event that they become locked in the rooms or need help moving nightstands back into place that have shifted of their own accord. The owner, Margot, loves every quirky bit about the Joshua Tree Inn and considers the spirits an integral part of what makes this place so special and such a mecca for music fans into the modern day.
I mean, it does sound like a fun place.
Yep.
I don't want to sleep in his room, though.
Do you want to pick it back up, or?
Sure. Heading into the heart of Joshua Tree National Park, we have the Lost Horse Mine Trail. This trail takes you through the rugged terrain of the park, then leads you to the remnants of an old gold mine. The mine is said to be haunted by the ghost of a miner who was killed in a tragic accident. Legend has it that his spirit still roams the area looking for his lost gold. If you hike the trail, keep an eye out for strange noises, unexpected movements. Some hikers have reported feeling a cold breeze despite the hot desert temperatures. Others claim to have heard the sound of pickaxes hitting the rock, even though there's no one around. A few miles away, we find Barker Dam Trail. It's a short hike that takes you to an ancient Native American water source. The trail is said to be haunted by the spirits of the Chemehuevi people?
Chemehuevi?
Yeah, Chemehuevi people, who were forced out of the area by European settlers. The Chemehuevi believe that the area was sacred and that their ancestor spirits still reside there. Along this trail, you can find strange rock formations or petroglyphs. Some hikers have reported feeling a sense of peace or reverence as they were in the presence of something holy. Others claim to have seen ghostly apparitions and heard the sound of chanting in the distance. So if you like deserts, spooky hikes, and haunted inns, this is the national park itinerary for you. This is the next one that we really want to go visit.
Everglades?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, so I had some fun. All right. We'll get to it. You'll know when you hear it. So far, we have spent a lot of time out west. So let's come back east for a look at Everglades National Park in the south of Florida. The park is known for its tropical wetlands and is packed with dangerous creatures, including alligators, poisonous snakes, panthers, wild boar, black bears, mosquitoes, fire ants, and more. It's basically like Little Australia.
It's going to kill you.
Yeah. Everything here is looking to kill you. Still, that hasn't stopped people from settling here. The Calusa Indians had called these forbidden swamplands home until the Spaniards arrived in the year 1513. The arrival of the Spanish precipitated into decades of conflict between not only the Spanish and the Calusa, but also between the various other native tribes and additional European interests that arrived in the Americas, helping prove that as dangerous as the wildlife in the Everglades is, mankind can be deadlier still. With so many hazards and so much violence, the Everglades are effectively a large watery grave that also happens to be rife with paranormal activity. We'll dive in here with one of the greatest legends of South Florida, the ghost ship of the Everglades. This story has been around for many generations, with some thinking that the first sailors to tell the tale may have sailed the waves as long as 300 years ago. The tale to not only served as entertainment, but to also as a cautionary tale. It centers around a crew of phantom pirates. Much like the crew of the infamous Flying Dutchman, the cutthroats were cursed to sail the twisting channels of the Everglades as part of an eternal punishment for their sins. Told in various ports of the Gulf and East Coast, it was already an old tale by the time it was published in newspapers across the country in 1901. A moral tale that originated in the days of the real pirates of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, the story likely has its roots in days when the crews of pirates lurked in the bays and rivers of the Florida coast to wait and watch for prey. In the 16th and 17th centuries, they raided Spanish treasure and merchant ships. Pirate raiders attacked the Spanish ports of St. Augustine and San Marcos de Apache. By the 18th and early 19th century, their targets evolved to slave, merchant, and even fishing vessels. The story of the ghost ship of the Everglades began with a chase on the high seas near the Florida Keys. Spotting a merchant vessel in the distance, the crew of a pirate ship gave chase. The captain and sailors of the merchant ship, however, were not easy prey. Experienced at their trade, they led the pirates on a long chase that continued for hours. Both ships were near Cape Florida when the pirates finally managed to close on their prey and force the merchantmen to surrender. Furious at the length of the chase and the resistance of the crew of the merchantman, the pirate captain forced every one of the crew to walk the plank, keeping the skipper's wife to watch their fate and that of her brave husband. When the last of the crew had been put to death, the captain's terrified wife found herself filled with righteous anger. Falling to her knees and raising her hands above her head, she called upon God to judge and punish her captors for their deeds. At that moment, a curling line of foam came sweeping down over the calm expanse and lifted both vessels, carrying them away. The ships were carried inland atop a tidal wave. The fate of the merchant vessel was not recalled by the tale, but the voyage of the pirate ship was far from over. On and on, the tidal wave bore the pirate ship across the sandy shallows, high over the beach, and finally set it down in the center of the twisting channels and grasslands of the Florida Everglades. According to the story, they remain there to this day. Unable to find their way out of the labyrinth of water and grass, they died one by one from fever and starvation. Their suffering, however, was far from over. Even after death, the pirates were left to sail the Everglades as ghosts, searching forever for a way out of their prison of grass. In the years that followed, the natives and hunters in the Everglades would tell of seeing the pirate ship plagued with rotting members, trying to find a channel out of the sawgrass pools into the deep blue waters of the sea. Not all of the tales from the Florida Everglades are ancient. While the spirits may be old, people are still having new and terrifying experiences in the modern day. In 2009, a young man reported that while on a canoe trip with his family through the swamps of the Everglades, he looked into the shallow, murky waters and saw a boy around 13 years old that seemed to be floating under their canoe. When they locked eyes, the young man in the canoe was terrified. He saw that whatever he was looking at under the water had bright red eyes and the look of pure hate. It then swam away. The young man let out a gasp, which made his mother ask him if he was all right. He didn't want to worry everyone, so he said that he thought he saw something in the water, but that he had been mistaken. A few minutes later, the young man saw the ghost boy again, watching him, but this time on the land behind some trees. Out of nowhere, a strong wind blew in and knocked his female cousin out of the canoe and into the water. Thankfully, the young man was able to pull his cousin out of the water and back onto the canoe. The family quickly paddled to dry land, where the girl started claiming her back was hurting her. Lifting her shirt up, the family was shocked to see that the girl's back was covered in bruises. Several weeks later, the young man became obsessed with finding out who the spirit might be. His research paid off when he discovered that a young boy drowned decades earlier in the same area that he encountered the ghost. Perhaps his cousin's bruises were caused by the ghost trying to pull her under and condemn her to the same fate. Now, for a tale of murder most foul. It has long been known that the Everglades have been extensively used by criminals to dispose of bodies. The chances of remains being found in the swamplands is slim, as the murky waters and tall grass conceal the bodies. Well, the wildlife does their thing. Now, no one knew where Edgar Watson came from, but he built a cabin in the Everglades on Chokolosky Island in 1896 and started a small sugarcane plantation. His neighbors stayed far away from him as Watson was not a friendly man. Case in point, one day 2 men were squatting on one of the nearby islands, and while Watson did not own this island, he still killed the men for trespassing. It wasn't long before people took to calling Watson Bloody Ed. To run his sugarcane crop, Watson would find workers, but would only hire people that were not from that area. And his neighbors noticed that he was going through employees like a revolving door. One day, some men from Chokoloski were in the swamplands doing some work when they discovered a woman's dead body floating in the water and recognized her as one of Watson's employees. The people in the town believed that Watson was murdering those he hired so that he did not have to pay them. When Watson came into town for supplies, he was confronted by the people in the town who informed him that they knew he was killing his employees. When Watson tried to defend himself, the vigilantes pulled out their guns and riddled Watson with bullets. They then took his body out to Rabbit Key and buried him. The area around the island where Bloody Ed lived is supposedly haunted by his many victims. Finally, we would be remiss if we didn't mention the ghost of Flight 401. We did cover this story in detail in our Haunted Flights and Airports episode on May 10th of 2021, but we'll remind you of some of the highlights here. On December 29th, 1972, Eastern Airlines Flight 401 was headed to Miami from New York, but due to an electric failure and pilot error, it crashed in the Everglades. 96 of the 163 people on board were killed in the tragedy. Instead of scrapping the plane, the airline salvaged as many pieces as possible and used them as replacement parts on other planes in the fleet. Paranormal events were soon experienced on these other planes, including seeing the apparitions of deceased people from the doomed Flight 401. The activity continued until all of the salvaged parts were eventually replaced themselves. Stories of plane crashes in the Everglades are not rare. Over the years, many aircraft have vanished from the airspace over the Everglades, never to be seen again.
Dum, dum, dum. Bermuda Triangle.
Extending into the Everglades.
Yep. Would not surprise me.
Nope. One last step for us this evening.
Yes. All right, so now we're going to go out to the Indiana Dunes National Park in Indiana. This is one of our newest national parks. The site started as the National Lake Shore in 1966 and was elevated to the national park status on February 15th of 2019. It protects 50 miles of Lake Michigan's coastline, featuring beaches, tall dunes, and sandy hiking trails, all accompanied by some spooky lore. A story that starts with Alice Mabel Gray, born in 1881. Gray attended college at 16, receiving her bachelor's degree and a slew of honorable mentions in biology, math, and astronomy, all before most women in the U.S. could actually vote. She took a job as a computer in Washington, D.C. for a few years before heading to Germany, where she picked up a master's degree. She returned to Chicago and a job as a stenographer, but she hated the 9-to-5 lifestyle. Simply on a whim, she boarded a train to Indiana Dunes with nothing more than a blanket and a couple of pistols. Gray braked from the conventional world and evolved into a permanent lifestyle. As she lived alone on dunes in a rundown shack, she studied the ecology of the dunes, riding, hiking, and occasionally frolicking naked in the waves. Sailors spotted her skinny dipping, and the newspapers picked up her story. They called her a mermaid, the nymph of the dunes, Diana of the dunes, after the Roman goddess of wildlife. She used her newfound fame to talk about conservation and why the dunes shouldn't be destroyed. She lived in the dunes throughout her adult life, taking on a partner named Paul Wilson. Paul had some run-ins with the law, but he was loyal to Alice in the time that they had together. Unfortunately, Gray would fall ill and die of kidney failure in February of 1925 at the age of 43 after refusing medical treatment for her ailment. Though she died decades before the establishment of the Indiana Dunes National Seashore and almost a century before it was raised up to a national park status, her activism helped to set the stage for those that came after her, solidifying the preservation of this beautiful site. The park honors her memory with Diana's Dare, a challenge to visit the sites associated with Gray to see the park through her eyes. Unsurprisingly, many who have participated in the challenge have crossed paths with the spirit of the woman who loved Indiana Dunes so dearly. Diana's ghost is less frightening than peculiar. Her hikers and beachgoers who have reported seeing a nude woman running along the sands disappearing into the frothy waters of Lake Michigan. She doesn't bother anyone. She minds her own business. She's frolicking and enjoying her natural surroundings, much like she did in life. While many national parks have attempted to tamp down on the stories of the paranormal, the spooky side of Gray's heritage has been acknowledged by the National Park Service. On their site regarding the Diana Dunes Dare, they refer to a ghost story retold, which, while a small note, is a significant one for the Park Service. So go, see what makes the Indiana Dunes so special, dip your toes in Lake Michigan, climb the dunes, and participate in the dare. You may catch a glimpse of Diana, the very special resident ghost of the way.
Yay!
Woo!
That's another episode for us.
In the books.
In the books. So, hope you enjoyed our foray into the haunted national parks.
As I said, there will be another one.
Oh, yeah. Well, with 429 sites and counting,
There's lots.
we covered, what, 5? Yeah. There's a lot more. So,
All right.
2 weeks from now,
2 weeks, the 24th, it will be Military Forts Part 2.
because we actually have done military forts before. Forget when that was, but keep talking.
Anyway, but again, those were a couple of suggestions by people there from last time, and so I started digging around, and off we went.
Yep. So we are overdue for a revisit of the haunted military. Our first and only haunted military episode was on June 21st of 2021. So we will be covering it part 2, 3 years and 3 days after we first touched on it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That one, I mean, we've also covered some forts and other ones too. But,
Oh, absolutely. But
and there was enough for part 3. I have to pare down part 2 still.
we'll get there.
There were a lot of stories. Can I tell you, there are paranormal blogs out there for the military, and they are fascinating.
But we're circling back on this because Roberto suggested it.
Yeah, she wanted to know about Camp Lejeune, so I found 3 paranormal stories about Camp Lejeune.
Yep, Lejeune won't get its own standalone episode. It probably could if you
Oh, it
really
could.
wanted to.
It could.
But we're going to go ahead, pick a few good stories from Camp Lejeune. We'll get them in the next episode. And then go visit some other spooky military places
As well.
near and far. So, yeah,
Including Fort Monroe. Fort Monroe is in there.
yes.
Zoomies.
Yeah, so with that is tonight's episode. What do we got coming up? Tours and tours.
Yes, we do have John Marshall scheduled for July and August.
Yes, so that is July...
20th?
Yeah, July 20th and August 24th. So, your next opportunities to join us at the John Marshall House for that special event are coming up soon.
And we do have a new special event that's going to be on August 17th. We're finalizing the details.
We'll talk about it next episode, assuming that we can hash everything out.
Yes, but it is in the works.
Yep.
So,
Good deal.
yeah, that's where we are.
Yay! Special events, spooky stuff, all kinds of good stuff going on.
Tours, coming out on a tour.
Yep. It turned out, even though it was miserably hot today, the evening was absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
So come join us as the sun's going down. It gets much more
tolerable.
much more tolerable. It's a good time to come out, coincidentally. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are going to go ahead and bid you all adieu for this evening.
Because we rambled enough.
Rambled. We had good stories.
We had
tonight.
tangents.
Yeah, we had a few tangents, but they were good tangents.
Yes.
They were pertinent tangents.
Yes. Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks on the 24th.
Yep. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, religious conflicts, whatever have you, between now and then, yeah, whatever, we're going to go with it.
Okay.
Go ahead, drop us a note. Happy to go ahead and hear from you. All right, maybe I take back the religious conflicts. Let's
keep religion out of this.
Sorry.
Except for reverence for the gods.
Yes.
Don't mess them up.
Respect. So, that's what it's all about. All right. I'm going to stop rambling before I say anything else that could be even remotely conceived as controversial. Good night, everybody.
Bye.